Welcome to Shedding the Shame. I'm your host, Tammy Wong. This is where women stop whispering about the hard things. No performing, no fixing, no pretending we're fine. Just honest conversations about what we've carried, what it cost us, and how we rebuilt. You don't need a perfect story. You just need the courage to tell the truth. You are not broken. You are not dramatic, and you are not alone. Let's shed the shame. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Shedding the Shame. I'm here today with Libby Baxter. Libby is an Australian-born woman who now calls Canada home. After the heartbreaking loss of her son when she was 20 weeks pregnant, she was propelled into a deeply personal journey through grief, healing, and purpose. Today, Libby channels that experience into meaningful support for others facing pregnancy and infant loss. She leads a peer support group and is the founder of the Little Bear Project, which is an initiative dedicated to providing comfort, connection, and a lasting legacy to those navigating similar paths. Through her work, Libby is helping to break the silence around loss and create spaces where grief is acknowledged, shared, and supported. Thank you for joining us today, Libby, to talk about this topic. I really commend you. I know this is a really vulnerable thing to talk about, and I'm glad that you're here. Thanks for reaching out.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited actually to come on and share and talk a little bit about my life and try to provide some perspective maybe for people having a similar experience and just wanting to kind of connect.
And I love what you're doing with the support group. I looked online and found it and see you do monthly meetups, and I think that's so important. I personally know two women who've been through this as well. And I love that you're providing a safe space for women to talk about it and get through it. So let's go ahead and get into your story. Can you take us back to who you were before the loss? What did life look like for you at the time?
Yeah. 8 years ago was my loss. So prior to that, I was young. I was 25 when I had the loss. Before that, it was the prime of your life, your early 20s. To any outsider, my life was like the perfect Instagram deck of images and reels of I lived on a tropical island near the Great Barrier Reef. On my days off, I was literally living people's holiday. I was living on an island where I could spend my time going diving at the Great Barrier Reef or going out with friends or just living the high life on this tropical island. And so to the outside world, it was the dream. And honestly, it was great. It was amazing. And I loved that time in my life. But there were certainly cracks then that came more apparent after my loss. Like it really made me open my eyes a bit to the things that I ignored about mental health and that sort of side of stuff that I thought I had a grasp on, and I really didn't. But yeah, I would say it looked like an amazing time in my life, and it was. It felt so freeing. I didn't know that bad things could happen to people because I'd had really no experience with bad things happening my entire life to that point. It was like, life's great and bad things happen to other people. And that's just how I viewed life, is that it just doesn't happen to me.
Yeah. Well, I'm
glad
you had that experience.
Yeah.
At any point in your life. That's amazing. An amazing experience to have. So please share as much as you feel comfortable with about your son and your pregnancy.
So the year was 2018. So I basically, in the end of 2017, I had met someone on the island and I started a relationship, and within a month I fell pregnant. And so that was a lot. That was hard there was a lot of shame just around that in and of itself, is that you're young, you make mistakes, you fall pregnant, you have to live with the consequences and work through that. And ultimately, we decided to progress with the pregnancy. And so I didn't tell anyone except for a few family members, and it was the same for my partner at the time. We didn't open it up to friends, no one knew. And so that in and of itself was really difficult for those first 12 weeks. And then we had the 12-week scan. Everything seemed fine as far as we knew. We were really excited. Then started telling friends, and I went to work the very next day after that scan, and I was sitting with my work colleagues telling them, and they're all excited, and my doctor called and he said, I need you to come into the office right now. Like, you need to find your partner. It's a drop everything, come in. And I was like, oh, and I get off the phone and everyone's like, oh, what's going on? I was like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just regretting telling everyone right away. And so we go in and we find out that they're suspecting that my son had amniotic band syndrome, which is it's something that I'd never heard of. My doctor had never dealt with, my midwife never dealt with, but it's basically the way they explained it to me is there's an inner sac and an outer sac, and the inner sac can rupture. They have no idea why it happens. It's just a freak thing that can happen, but it creates these sticky strings, and they wrap around limbs. They cause a foot. They might cause like a hand to self amputate in the womb. Like, it's just physical deformities, nothing internal. Pretty much doesn't cause death. I think there's the very, very odd chance that if it went around like the umbilical cord or something, and maybe, but otherwise, like, it's just physical deformities and usually not even caught till the baby's born. They see it after birth. So the fact they caught it at 12 weeks, they were like, we could be wrong. There might be nothing to worry about, but it is concerning that we are suspecting it now because we can't see one hand and one foot. And so that then became the decision of, do you continue on with the pregnancy? And for me, I was like, they could be wrong. What if they're wrong?
Right.
And there's no proof to this. And so we started seeing specialists, and they kept all telling us, you need to wait till the 20-week scan because that's when we'll be able to determine what's happened. And I was like, so I just have to sit here and wait, basically? And they're like, yep, just wait it out because we can't see anything or be sure until the baby's bigger. So that's what we did. We waited, and I went to the 20-week scan, and I don't know, it was like as soon as in Australia your partner's in there with you with the scans and it's projected on a like TV screen. Mm-hmm. And so I'm sitting there, and as soon as they started doing the scan, I could just tell, because I was like, the last scan you could see a baby, and this one it was like a folded over body. And I just instantly knew something's not right here, but I had no indication until that moment. Like, nothing in my body told me that anything was wrong. And so the sonographer stopped, and she was like, I have to go and get the doctor. She's like, I'm really sorry, there's no heartbeat. And obviously in that moment I just crumbled. I don't know what to do with that information. And and so they ended up saying that I'll have to give birth because my body doesn't know I'm not pregnant. Like, it hasn't made that realization. And so you have to give full birth so your body knows that it's over and you can kind of move on, in a sense. Your body can move on with normal processing. And so they decided to induce me. I stayed at the hospital and they induced me, and they said, oh, it'll take maybe 2 hours. And it was 3 days later. By the time I gave birth, my body just wasn't having it. It was just like, I'm not accepting this. Like, this is not being removed from me. And so that was really hard because I was like, how does my body not know to let go? How can my body not give me the signs or do anything to have protected this even in the lead up to that? So I had a lot of shame with my body even through that, of just like, why can I not have that intuition to know? Like, why? But I think looking back now, maybe my body just wanted so badly to protect that baby, even though there was nothing to be done. But they ended up doing an autopsy. So the amniotic band syndrome was true. He did have that. But aside from that, they never found a cause of death. We have no idea why he died. And it's just a mystery of, it was just two unlucky things, two completely random situations happening in the same pregnancy that had nothing to do with each other. And I'll never know. And I think that will haunt me for the rest of my life. But it was tough.
Thank you for sharing that. I can't imagine how difficult that is to talk about and think back to. And I appreciate you being okay to share that.
Yeah.
And for educating me, I'd never heard of amniotic band syndrome either. And so I'm sure a lot of people listening haven't. Yeah, there's just, the whole idea of pregnancy and growing a child in your body and it actually working out and all the things that can go wrong. It's crazy that babies are born every day. I mean, there's just so many things our body does that we're never aware of. And I think that what you shared about having to be induced and give birth is something a lot of people don't think about and don't realize with stillbirth, is that not only do you have to grieve the loss of the child that you weren't expecting, but you have to birth the child and not be able to take them home.
Yeah.
And that is, just thinking about that is excruciating. Yeah, that's such a big piece that I think a lot of people don't know or don't think about. Is there anything else that you went through in that experience that you would want people to understand that maybe they don't realize or think about, that is something you had to do because of this?
Yeah. I guess, like, as you said, that piece of giving birth, I never imagined, and you never think about that, like, growing up, that the first time you give birth will be to a baby that is not alive. And so when you give birth, the room is dead silent. There is not a cry, and there's not one coming. There's not that, like, hold your breath till you hear it. It's just silence. And then to have to go on and pass the placenta after, when you're exhausted and broken, and you're just like, how can I be expected to keep trying? For me, the placenta got stuck, and they nearly took me to surgery just with giving birth in general, because if your body doesn't allow you to do this, like, we need to intervene. And then when the placenta went, I was just like, give me something, like, give me strength to just, I cannot keep going and going, because this isn't how it's meant to happen. Yeah, I think that's tough. And where we were at the time, I didn't have my family close by, and they would have got on a plane had I have known it had been several days. But because I was told it was going to be 2 hours,
Right.
I didn't want them to fly across the country, because I was like, you're not going to be here by the time I leave anyway. We were on the mainland of Australia for the appointment at the hospital, not the island where I lived. So I was like, you're going to be in the wrong place by the time we get here. I'll be gone. And in hindsight, looking back, it would have been like, just get on that plane and we'll figure it out. That was probably one of my bigger regrets, because all decision making really goes out the window when you're in a situation like that. I thought I could make sound choices, and I thought I would be someone that could do that. But I think a lot of the choices got left up to my partner at the time, and they're not choices I would have made for myself. I think he made choices that felt right for him maybe in the moment, and he didn't know me enough to know what I'd really want. And so I think that became challenging for me. Things like getting the ashes back, we didn't do that. We didn't keep the clothes, because I was just like, I can't make choices, so he made them, and they weren't choices I would have made. But yeah, so I think, like, having someone that really knows you in your corner in that, to make all your
advocate for you. Yeah. Yeah, because you were in a newish relationship. So yeah, he didn't fully know what you needed. And I mean, it's hard to know what you need in a situation like that. But when you aren't in a position to make the decisions, it's,
Yeah. And I
the
think
control of that taken away from you too.
Yeah, there's that level of, I think he was dealing with his own grief of the situation, so he's trying to make choices that also would have suited him in that moment and what his grief journey needed. But we were on completely different trajectories with how we were going to handle that. So, yeah.
So what did those first days and weeks look like after your loss?
They just felt like a big percent of them are just a blur. Basically, the relationship I was in broke down within a week and a half or so. I was finding myself having to move out of where we were living. It was up to me to find somewhere new to live. So it was basically, my whole world just got rocked all at once, and I didn't have the support system of, like, family and things that I really needed. I had some friends, but they were living their island life, their good life, so they should. It was very confusing for them too, because they just found out I was pregnant and just found out we lost a child all at once. plus dealing with this relationship breakdown where most of them were friends with both of us. So it was just this very awkward. Everyone was like, oh, this is hard. And so for me, I just felt so alone and so isolated. And although I'm sure looking back, there were people like reaching out and checking in on me, it just didn't, I don't know. I think I just felt like, how could anyone possibly understand what I'm feeling? That bitterness nearly just went into this like bitter spiral of like, no one gets it. And I just felt empty on the inside and just wanted so bad to just rewind. I was like, if I could just go back, if there was something I could change, just trying to fix it. But yeah.
And I mean, that blame piece is hard. And I think a lot of women who lose pregnancies blame themselves. Like, oh, I did something wrong. My body is betraying me. I felt that with my miscarriages, even they were very early.
Yeah.
And it's a common belief, but it's so harmful because we're already grieving, and then blaming yourself, it's such a low place to be in. And it takes a really long time to trust your body again too after that.
Yeah.
And that, it will do what it's supposed to. You mentioned your family not coming out because of thinking it would only take a few hours. Did they then come out, or were they able to come out and support you during those first days and weeks?
So I went and met them. We went down to Melbourne. So we were in Townsville at the time of the loss, and then I went down to Melbourne, and my family flew over from Tasmania. So I went and met them there for a couple of days, and my partner at the time went off with his family who lived close by. So we kind of separated in those early days, which was for me very jarring. So I just want to be around the one person that was there in that experience.
I understood it.
We just needed to separate. And so I spent a little bit of time with them there, but it certainly wasn't enough. And I had a good close friend come and visit on the island maybe a week later, and so he came and checked in on me. But yeah, it was pretty much just back to life as usual. The world keeps on spinning, and I had to go back to work sooner than I wanted, and it was just tough. Just kind of was made to be like, I'd used all of my holiday and sick pay of being in the hospital and going to these specialist appointments, that when this happened, there was someone filling in for my manager at work, and she didn't know me as well, and I think her management style wasn't as maybe compassionate, and so she kind of was like, well, she sent me a text one night and was like, just checking if you're coming to work tomorrow. And I was like, I don't know, like I don't even know where I'm going to live. I'm a wreck at the moment. She was like, well, you're out of sick pay and holiday pay, and like rules are rules, that you should be back at work, you can't really take time off. Like, I will be paid. I don't need to be paid in this moment. I'll figure it out. But yeah, so it was kind of just thrown back into wedding planner life, which was chaos for me, because how do I be a wedding planner and be there for people's best day of their life when it's the worst time in mine, and they all knew I was pregnant? So that's just so hard to navigate those conversations with those people that mean well when they're like, oh, how's the baby? And I'm there like, dead. I don't know.
It's the last thing you want to talk about. Yeah, and you just saying the world kept spinning. I know when we talked before, you were saying everything stopped for me. My world stopped. But then seeing everybody else move on with their day-to-day like nothing happened, because nothing happened to them. Yeah, how did you deal with that? And can you talk a little bit more about that and how long you felt you were in that mode?
Yeah, I just felt like months to years for me that I felt like that. There was different levels of going through that, but I think initially in the early days, you get less text messages, less calls, less knocks on your door, and that's when you start to realize everyone's kind of going back to their thing, and you're just slowly becoming more and more isolated in the fact that your emotions aren't there yet to just pick back up and go back on. You'll never be who you were before the loss. You never will. And I always tell that to people of like, you will change, and usually that means things in your life change, whether it's the people, your friends might change, your job might change, where you live might change, maybe all of it. For me, it was everything. Everything in my life changed. And it's because you have to, because the person that first applied for that job that you're doing or met that friend and had that hobby, you're not them anymore. And so I think that was the biggest thing of the world's just carrying on as usual. And I'm like, well, hang on, I don't even know who I am. I have to rediscover my whole self. And all I want is to go back to who I was before this. I could just go back and I'll take all the problems I had back then. I'll take them all, but I just don't want this. I just don't want to sit with this feeling because it's too hard. It's too hard to face it. And I didn't know how to get out of it. I just felt like there must be a way out, and I don't know how to get out other than the worst case scenario. And that was the only option I felt was the escape, and not one that I wanted to take. But I was like, I don't know how else to manage this. No one teaches you this kind of grief.
And nobody, I think it's getting better now, but definitely back when you were going through this, when I was going through miscarriage, nobody talks about miscarriages or loss or pregnancy loss and stillbirth. And these are just not things that women readily talk about in public. And again, I think it is changing a little bit, but then you feel like you're the only one who it's happened to. And again, the blame of like, I did something wrong. This is my fault. And so I think that really hurts women's ability to grieve properly and find the support they need, because just there's not enough people talking about it and normalizing it. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a big thing, is just that because people don't talk about it, I hate calling it common, but unfortunately it is. It just it is common. And because I know when you go through it, you feel like, well, there's not that many people that really understand how it feels. It can't be that common. And I wish it wasn't common, but it is. We just don't talk about it. And so I know I felt so isolated at the time. And there was a few people that I knew had gone through it, but actually it was my male friends' partners that had gone through it. And so I didn't have that connect with people my age that were women that had gone through it. But I'm certain there's probably some out there, and a few have surfaced over the years, but we just don't talk about it. I'm like, how do you survive without talking? Like, I'm a talker, so I'm like, I gotta talk about it.
Obviously I started a podcast about this, so I'm a talker. But I think what you said about the text messages slow down, the visits slow down, right? People think there's a certain grief timeline or period where it's okay to grieve, it's normal to grieve, and then at some point, they haven't moved on, or they're surprised that you're still so in it. And I find even with miscarriages at a really early stage, I grieve them and had a roller coaster of emotions about that for years. And I know you're really passionate about breaking down this phrase of moving on when it comes to this with child loss. So what do you think that phrase gets wrong? What would you prefer people said instead?
Yeah, I think so. Going back to a week after my loss, I had a friend call me and she sent me a video of explaining grief. And she was like, I don't know if this is going to help. And I don't know if it's the right thing to say or do. I just thought I would share this with you because maybe it will help. And I've never told her actually that I still refer to that. And when people need some help around grief, that's the thing I send them. I think she really saved a lot for me emotionally when she shared this with me, and something I should probably tell her. But she shared this video, and it's basically it shows grief in a way that I'd never really seen it explained. And it was like, grief is like a ball, and so you have grief and your life sits in the middle of this big ball of grief, but grief doesn't shrink over time. It's your life that gets bigger around it. And so that's why I don't think we move on. I think we just add things to our life that make the grief not be the biggest part of our world anymore. And so it's not that it doesn't matter. I've had people come to my support group that are in their 70s being like, I still miss my child. Yeah, I hope I still miss my child when I'm in my 70s. I'm like, this is great, because that's what I really believe in, is it doesn't matter how much time passes. You might handle it better because your world's become so much bigger, but there are going to be days where your world shrinks a little through hard stuff, and then your world grows again because you add a new hobby, or you travel somewhere new, or you meet new friends. And it's all about what you can add around the grief that makes the grief easier to carry and manage. So I think that's the thing. I don't know if there's a way I'd put that in a phrase, but I don't think it's moving on. I think it's just learning to live with it.
Yeah.
Like making it almost your friend in a sense. You can't rid yourself of that.
I love that analogy of the ball. If you have the video, I'd love for you to send it to me. I'd link it in here. People, I think, can be hard on themselves. If it's been a while, it's been a few years, and something triggers you. You see something, you hear something, that triggers your grief, and you cry or you're upset, and then you're like embarrassed about it. No, that is grief. That is showing that thing really mattered to you, and it's okay, and it's normal to have things in your life trigger those feelings once in a while. That doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're a human being and you have emotion, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's much better than being a robot. You should be proud that you have emotion. It's good.
Yeah. And even just that comparison, don't compare yourself to somebody else's grief journey, because it's so different. It depends on your support system. It depends on your emotional intelligence and how you can handle things. It depends on a lot of factors, like what that loss means to you. As you were saying, there's no difference between me going through a loss at 20 weeks to someone going through a loss at 4 weeks. There's no difference. And it's just, I think there's this misconception about that. And you just move on from it, and it's fine because it was an early loss. I don't care about when it was. That child matters. And that, I have friends that are like, oh, I don't know what the gender would have been, and I wish I could have gave the baby a name. I'm like, give it one. Decide what the gender is. I don't care. I'm not going to judge you for that. I'm like, if that feels good, if there's something in your heart that tells you it was a girl, or, I've had friends do gender neutral names because then it just makes them feel good about that. I'm like, give that baby a name because that baby meant something to you. It doesn't matter the timeline.
I think that's really important because I felt embarrassed. Oh, I was only 5-6 weeks pregnant with both of my losses. They were back-to-back losses. It was before I ever had my first daughter. And it was devastating for me because I also tried to get pregnant for 2 years and was, convinced I was never going to be a mom. But I was embarrassed to be like, oh, well, my friend literally had a stillbirth and mine was just 5-6 weeks. That's silly for me to feel so sad about it. Why do I feel so sad about this? This is dumb. And it's not, though, because like you said so beautifully, it was still a baby to me. It was still dreams I had for that child. For me, it was a loss. And I never named mine, but I did get a tattoo to honor and celebrate them. And I'm so glad I did, because I look at it every day and I still think of those babies I lost. And I'm grateful because I couldn't imagine not having the 2 children I was able to have, right? And so I think it's important to honor and celebrate those losses no matter when they are. And I'm glad that your support group does that for people.
So you and Emily were speaking about you couldn't imagine not having the children you have now. And during that episode, there was talk about, at the time, all you wanted was the babies that you lost. But then Emily was saying, but I couldn't imagine not having the children I have now. So maybe it's, I don't know that she used the phrase, it's okay that she lost them, but she was at peace with that.
Yes.
But I wanted to challenge that thought because I don't know if you've heard of it. I've done a little bit of research on it, but there's a process called, I'm going to probably butcher this, microchironism. And it's a process where your cells and the baby's cells swap between your body, so your organs, like your heart and liver and kidneys, and the baby's. So even in a loss, they've done studies to prove that when you go through a loss, that baby's cells stay in your body. So the next baby you have, you pass that baby's cells to that baby. So there's a reason why you couldn't imagine life without those babies. It's because those babies are the babies you lost as well. They're all of them.
Wow.
And so
that's beautiful.
Yeah, you didn't need to go through those losses, but there's a reason you love those ones even more, is because they are all of them. So,
oh my God, that gave me such chills.
Yeah.
Wow.
When I learnt about that, I was like, my heart feels so happy.
Well, thank you for telling me that. And now
Because I
I'm
feel
going to
like
go
it's
read about that.
such a common thing that I hear women say. I've had friends say it too. And people tell me, when you get your baby in your arms, these losses won't seem that significant, or you'll be happy it's that baby and not these ones. And I'm like, that's a weird thing to say to somebody. I just
Totally.
don't like it. And so I often bring this up. And I really, truly believe you've finally got a baby in your arms. Like, thank goodness.
Totally.
Hold that thing forever. But more so is just that they are the babies you lost, so they heal that wound a little because they carry that DNA with them, and it's really special.
That's really special. And I think too, going through losses, it made me appreciate even more being able to finally have my own child, right? It's knowing that it doesn't always go to plan and it's not a given made me appreciate when I was able to finally have my children. Yeah. What has your grief looked like over the past 8 years as we talk about the roller coaster and the ups and downs and the timeline? What has that looked like for you day to day over these past 8 years?
It's been interesting. I feel like the last 2 years have been far more calm than the rest. About a month after my loss, I ended up finding myself in hospital under mental health, and I was struggling there a lot. I pretty much just shut the world out and became quite silent, and they had to basically coach me back into realizing that what I'd been through had kind of triggered this ultimate trauma response in me, and I just shut down. And so I quit my job as a wedding planner, so I gave up my career, and that was massive for me to walk away from something that I was so career driven on and worked so hard for. And I moved back to Tasmania with my parents, and from there, just conveniently, I'd forgot that I'd prepaid for a trip to Europe for the first time. And so I ended up going on this trip about 6 months after my loss, and it was an eight-week trip. And I was like, wow, there's so much life out there. I don't have to be in this small little world where I'm just broken all the time. And so I set myself the goal to move across the world, and I did that within less than a year, maybe like months after I got back from Europe, which, looking back now, I was so wounded. That was brave of me to go when I went, because I was not anywhere where I needed to be emotionally to move across the world, and the fact it's worked out, thank goodness. But yeah, looking back, I was trying to run before I could walk, because I think I just wanted to fix it. So I was like, this will fix it. I'll move across the world. And in some ways it did, but not without work. That then led to being pregnant and everything. I always had some issues with drinking, of just over drinking, not handling my emotions, letting it all come out when I had drunk too much. I just wasn't good at self-regulating. And so after the loss, I just started to drink more and more and more. This is just how I numb the feelings, and I try to be happy and I try to have a good time and make life great. And so when I moved to Canada, I tried to quit a few times and wasn't really working out. And then I did 100 days sober through COVID. I decided to stay during COVID.
Well, you did that through COVID. Congratulations to you, because I did the opposite. I think I drank most days in the beginning stages of COVID.
Yeah, I feel like everyone was like, oh yeah, we all drank. That was the one time where I just stopped. And I think I was more of a go out and socialize drink. I just had to leave the house. And so I just swapped drinking for junk food, essentially. So I just binge ate instead. But I didn't drink for 100 days. And just before the 100 days was up, I moved into this new house, and with all these housemates, there was like 12 of them. And I was like, I don't know how this is going to go. I hope they're not big partiers, but we'll see. And they just accepted me. Like, they threw a little party on my first night, didn't care that I wasn't drinking at the time. And then I hit the 100 days, and that was the goal that I wanted. And so then I slowly started to drink again. And one of my housemates in the house, I'm now about to get married to. So I ended up
amazing.
And meeting him. And so over time, though, because he met me sober, he met a side of me that he obviously really liked. And over time, I began to drink more and more. And eventually he was like, there's some issues here. I had a few people say stuff, but not really. I never took it seriously. But this is the first time where someone was like, I think maybe you just need to cut down a bit. Like, maybe you need to see a therapist. I think you're looking for answers in things that aren't going to give you them. So I ended up getting sober 2.5 years ago and haven't drank since. And
congratulations.
Thank you. Did therapy, and the first year was awful. I really had to look at myself. I was like, this is going to be my glow up year. I'm going to be But no, it was like, look at every inch of your life and be honest and be brutal with yourself about what you need to work on, and look at your loss and look at that trauma, because I haven't. I've done maybe 3 therapy sessions since my loss up to that point. So it had been 5.5 years and I had done 3 therapy sessions. So I had a lot to handle, and luckily I connected with a therapist that just understood me, and we worked really hard together. I went all the time, and by January of last year I was like, I feel really good. I feel like I've got this. And I was still going to therapy, and I think to other people it looked like I bounced back and things were great, but that was the hardest set of years of my life. And then a lot of this I've never really deeply shared with people about how difficult that was and how easy social media makes it look. Or people just think, oh, she's living across the world, she's great, look what she's done with her life. Your problems follow you no matter where you go. But I just had to keep trying and finding the balance. And then I'd written a kid's book about my son. This was when I was in the hospital on the mental health kind of time, and I'd written stories about him because I said to my dad, like, I'm just sad and I don't know who he would have been. And one night he was leaving the hospital and he's like, why don't you just write stories, and when I come back in the morning you can read them to me and you just tell me who he is. You just decide everything you want about him. And so that's what I did, and a story came of it, and my mum helped get it published. Well, not published, sorry, illustrated. And so she had all the pages illustrated, and then it sat there for, that was probably, I think it was done maybe 9 months after my loss, and it never got touched, never got published, nothing, until February of last year, when my therapist was like, do you think you want to look at that again? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, I feel like publishing that means he's done. Like, Fletcher is done. There's nothing more left to him. And my therapist's like, that doesn't have to be the case. It doesn't mean he's done. It actually means he'll never end, because he's got something permanent in place where it will always exist. And so I went home and speed did it all in one afternoon, got it published, and just through the Amazon publishing, and published it. And then a month later started the support group, and I just found this ooze of confidence, like, I can do it scared, I can do it not well trained, I can do it not all put together, but I just have to do something and help people. And doing the book created so many conversations in that first month where everyone was coming to me being like, hey, I've had a loss, hey, this happened to me, I know this person. And someone even came to me and said, hey, my son had amniotic band syndrome and I've never met another. First. And my world opened up, and I just instantly was like, I might not have all the tools, I might not know how to help people, I've never been to a peer support group, I don't know what it looks like, but I'm going to start because I wish someone started for me, you know? So
you shared so many beautiful things there. No, you shared so many beautiful things there. Well, first of all, what's the name of your book?
It's called Fletcher and Bear.
I found it when I was, searching for the support group and things. And I was like, I think this is the same person, but we'd never talked about name or anything like that. And so I love that. I think writing is so cathartic, and it's like your therapist said, this is now Fletcher's legacy. Now people get to know about him, and that's always there. And that's a tangible thing you always have to remember him by. And I think that's so special. And now it's something that could provide comfort to other people going through, and it's providing a talking piece. It's an outlet. And now, you are putting your own pain into something that's purposeful for yourself, for healing, and for others. And I've done that with my own thing with hair loss, and it's been so meaningful and rewarding, and it's healed me in so many ways that I didn't anticipate in trying to help other people. So I love all that you just shared. I think that's amazing. I want to acknowledge that you are sharing things that you haven't talked about before. And so just thank you for trusting me to do that. That means a lot to me. Yeah. And also, I know I don't know you well, but as I listen to you talk, I'm so proud of you. Look what you've done with your life, not just the stopping drinking, which is really hard to do for most people, and going and doing the intense therapy, which I'm doing myself for other reasons right now. And it is hard. It's exhausting. It's emotionally taxing. It is not easy work. It's not fun. It brings up a lot of stuff that you have to process. And so just being willing to do that for yourself is something to be proud of. And look where you've come. So
thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Definitely, a journey, that's for sure. It feels like a blink of the eye, and at the same time, that was the longest 8 years of my life.
Totally. Well, and just look, I mean, how much you changed. Yeah, you changed careers, you moved countries, you started a new relationship, you processed so much of what you went through. I mean, that's just massive amounts of change for any person to go through one of those things versus all of those things. So was there a moment in all of that time where you started to feel like yourself again, or like the newer version of you?
Yeah, there's one particular time, and it was like the moment that I just went, oh, I'm here. And it was when so maybe 2 months, 3 months after my loss, I was sitting in my parents' living room and I was crying my eyes out to my mom, and I was like, I just don't want to do the hard bit. Can I just skip ahead to the bit where it doesn't feel this bad anymore? I know that I can get there. I just don't want to do the work that gets me there, because that's hard. And it's happened with other relationships and things that have broke down the past, things that haven't worked out. I always know that eventually things get better. And so I was like, this one just feels so bad. Just want to skip ahead to where it doesn't hurt so much. And then this was only maybe 3 months ago that so the Little Bear project that I'm doing was putting together all of the cards for that, and I'd been working on a grant proposal as well for a nonprofit that's allowing me to apply for grants under them, and so things were really looking in the right direction. And I said to my partner, there's something about this day where this is the version of me that version was talking about. Like, this is the day where I'm like, you did it. Like, you made it. You're helping other people. You're okay in yourself. Like, you're not absolutely shattered anymore, and you've got it together. That girl back then, that 25-year-old that was sobbing on the living room floor, like, just wanted this version of me. And I wouldn't have pictured this is where I'd be and this is what I'd be doing. But I just want to say to her, you're going to do it. You're going to get there. And it was that moment. And it took me 7.5 more years to make it to that point. And so I think that's the big thing, is a lot of people I see just being like, oh, I should be over it by now. I should be okay. And it's been 3 months since they lost. Oh, no.
Give yourself some grace.
I was like, don't take this where I'm at now as your target, because this took me a lot to get to this point of actually being like, we did it, you know?
Well, and like you were saying a little bit earlier about social media, I call it the highlight reel, right? It's what people want you to see. It's curated. It's not the behind the scenes. And it's important to remember that nobody's life is perfect. Everybody is struggling with something. Everybody's got an insecurity. They may not show it to you, but don't compare yourself to the highlight reel, because it's not real. It's a snippet. So I want you to talk a little bit more about the Little Bear Project and about your support group. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I looked it up online. Is it called I Feel It Too?
Yeah.
So I'd love you to share just what it is, what you do with people, and what made you decide to start and create this kind of group?
Yeah, so the support group, the name itself, I actually came up with the I feel it too phrase maybe like a month after I lost Fletcher. I just love this phrase, I feel it too, mate, because I feel like that it's just a nod of I feel what you're feeling. And I even got it made on t-shirts for my mum and I, but I never did anything with it. This was all in that first sort of 6 months, and my mum and I wore these t-shirts to a pregnancy loss kind of remembrance walk, and everyone there was like, oh, what's this about? I don't know. I have no idea. But I held on to that idea of it being something for so long, and then when I decided to start the support group, I was like, I got the name. It just wasn't even a doubt in my mind. That's what I want to call it. And we meet once a month, and it's open to like men and women. It's open to friends, grandparents, anyone that feels like they either need support from a loss, they want to give support, maybe they know someone going through a loss and they're like, how do I support them? Anyone at all that just needs to be in that space is welcome. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter if you've gone on to have more kids, you had kids prior, like I don't worry about that. I'm like, just come along, because your loss is your loss. Yeah. No matter where you're at on that journey. And so we just meet once a month. We eat cookies and drink coffee. And we recently did a little paint your own picture type of thing, which they loved. So we might just keep doing things like that. And I hope to do more events. For Bereaved Mother's Day, I'd like to host an event. And in October for Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month, I want to do some things with that. So I just do it once a month at the moment, but if I get some of this grant funding, I might be able to do a bit more, which would be exciting. And through the group itself, one of the ladies that attended, we came up with this idea of, I just kept putting ideas out to people saying like, I want to do more. Like I hear that there's very minimal you get sent home from hospital with if you go to hospital having a miscarriage or you're in the maternity ward and you lose your child. There's very little that you go home with for support, whereas I went home with an entire like tote bag full of stuff. I didn't realize then how much support I had from the wider community. Like I was unaware that people go home with almost nothing. And so I thought I want something that leads them to this group, as well as just makes them know they're not alone. Even if they never want to come, they just know that there's somebody else out there if they need it. And so we came up with this concept. I have one here, but they're these little cards, and they have these bears that we make out of resin on them. Look like this.
Oh, that's so cute. I love it.
Are dedicated to a baby that has been lost prior, and so it basically, this will get gifted to somebody else that goes through a loss, and it's a way you give a legacy for your child, and you just say, I feel it too, this is my child, and then they can pass on their child's name if they like, and then I'll circulate that. So at the moment they go to the maternity ward, there's a pregnancy clinic locally, a medical clinic here as well, and then hopefully maybe in the future, if I can manage just making enough of them and the affordability, I'd like to do the emergency department, because they see the most miscarriage there and have the least amount of time to be compassionate.
Yes.
And so it's a way for that. But on the back, it's just got about the support group. But yeah, just something
That's beautiful. Start. And tell people where you're located, where you're giving these out to.
Yeah, so this is in the East Kootenays. So at the Kimberley Medical Clinic, and then at the Cranbrook Hospital and the Encompass Pregnancy Clinic in Cranbrook as well. So yeah, just in the East Kootenays at the moment, but I would love to go further. It's just a kind of, how do I do that? Because at the moment I'm 100% self-funding this and the support group, so trying to balance what I can manage self-funding and time-wise, but
and you're working too, so when you're saying I just do it, I'm like, monthly support groups a lot. It's a lot, and you're kudos to you, because yes, I'm also, would love to have more funding to do more initiatives, but I'm also one person, and so I get that too, and it's a lot. It's a lot that you put into it and a lot of work. And for those who aren't familiar with the Kootenai area, it's British Columbia, which is in Canada.
Oh, yes.
So if anybody's listening in the US and they're like, where is that? It's in Canada. So I love everything about what you're doing. It's so, so important. Why do you think pregnancy and infant loss is still so hard for people to talk about?
I think it's that shame factor of it's uncomfortable for the person hearing about it. It's not really uncomfortable for the person talking about it, because a lot of the time they want to talk about how they feel. They don't want to be silenced. The awkward thing for them is going back to work and having to pretend like everything's fine.
Like nothing happened. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think
to make other people comfortable. Yeah. Like you were saying.
It's all about like making someone else comfortable and not about like how you truly feel. And so I think that's the big problem with why it's just not talked about as much, because I know I did that. And then I got to a point where I was like, I don't care, just tell people, just put it out there. And they always do that, like, oh, because they don't know what to say. I'm like, I brought it up. You don't have to be awkward. I brought it up. And I think it takes courage to bring it up. It takes courage to open those wounds and trust people with that information. But I think we're too afraid to tell the people we do trust. And I think that's the hardest part, is there's too many people that don't tell their friends and don't open up out of preservation of they don't want to hear it again. And it's like, then you need to find different friends.
Yeah, then they aren't the right friends for you if they aren't going to support you during one of the worst experiences of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Maybe you feel like a broken record, but that's exactly what you are.
That's your life right now. That's your reality. Of course you're going to want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And you should have people who want to be there for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
For someone who's recently experienced a loss like this and probably is feeling very alone because of what we just talked about, what would you want them to hear?
I don't know if you've heard of Simon Sinek.
Yeah.
So for this question, I actually wrote down a quote that will need a little explanation, but he said, "We don't build trust by offering help. We build trust by asking for it." And I think for people going through loss, I think like what he's saying with that is that with your friends, if you don't ask for help when you're struggling with things, they'll give you the like, oh, how are you doing? Or they might forget to ask. But if you need help, I hope you ask for it. And I think this applies in this scenario. Don't wait for someone to reach out to you, because eventually the world does keep spinning. People do move on and they're not going to reach out, and you're going to be disappointed. And just insert yourself. And that might feel uncomfortable, and that might be like you do that with a family member or a friend. Find that person that you can insert yourself, and you can be like, I'm feeling like this today, or I had this thought, or maybe I have some friends where they get by with dark humor some days, so they just want to joke and they know it's a safe space with me, because I'm not going to be like, why are you joking like that? I just will go along with it. And I have quite a few friends that happily insert themselves in my life and be like, hey, this is how I'm feeling today, need to check in. And we might not have talked for weeks, or I might be someone that I see every day, but they will insert themselves as they need it because they have that confidence to do that. And so I think for anyone going through loss, as lonely as it can feel, don't be afraid to share your story, and don't be afraid to say your child's name or say how you're feeling. Do it like everybody else does when they're going through stuff. Everybody else says how they feel. Put yourself in there and find those people that you trust to be able to do that.
Yeah. That's great advice. And yeah, your friends might not realize if you're not telling them that you're still struggling so much. They might think, oh, wow, she's doing really well, right? And I think we all do that because we don't want to burden people. But if you're really struggling, your friends, if they are real friends, will want to show up for you and will want you to tell them you're not doing okay, because they care about you and they love you and they want you to be okay. Trust that they want to be there for you and that you're not a burden for asking for help. We all need help sometimes. And again, I'm going to go back to, it doesn't make you weak. It makes you a human being. No one is made to handle everything alone. We were made to have emotions and want community for a reason.
Yeah.
I think it's important to remember that, and important reminder for myself, to be honest.
Yeah.
So when I remember, I always like to end my podcast with the last question of, what does shedding the shame mean to you?
Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about this because I listen to your episodes and I hear that question and I'm like, I feel like you're going to ask me that. It can mean so many things in this scenario, but I think the biggest one is shedding the shame means removing that guilt of feeling what you need to feel and saying what you need to say. Like, it just means letting go of that and letting go of that expectation of how your life should have planned out to be. Because life's going to do what it does and you don't have control over that. You can control certain things, but I think it's just letting go of the need to fix everything. Some things just aren't fixable, but it doesn't mean you can't have a good life if you can't fix that thing.
Yeah. Perfect answer. I love it. And what I love is everybody says something different.
Yeah.
And they're all very profound and beautiful in their own way. So
Yeah.
thank you, Libby, for being on today, for sharing such a personal story. And I just commend you for showing up. And I know this episode will really help some people listening. And so I'm excited to be able to share it.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Thanks for having me, and
You're very welcome.
I really love the work that you're doing. I think it's really important. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, we'll talk to you all soon. Thanks for listening in today. Bye. Thank you for being here and for listening to another powerful conversation on shedding the shame. If something in today's episode resonated with you, I want you to sit with that. Let it land. Let it remind you that whatever you're carrying, you don't have to carry it quietly. Shame survives in silence. Healing begins when we speak. If this episode moved you, share it with a woman who needs to hear it. Start the conversation. Send the text. Have the brave talk. And if you're ready to stop whispering about your own story, keep coming back. These conversations are just getting started. Until next time, keep telling the truth, keep taking up space, and keep shedding the shame.